Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Yes, it's Wednesday today.
We got it right this time.
I apologize. What do we have today, Krystal? It is an amazing show.
Of course, it's an amazing show. That goes without saying, although we do like to say it every day. We have a surrogate for Pete Buttigieg's campaign to talk about whatever happened in Iowa, and also looking forward to New Hampshire. We have Reed Wilson to also cover where we are in terms of the results that have come out, what we can say, where we go from here. We've got the great Emma Vigeland on the show. She was on the ground in Iowa. We've got Paul Glasters to talk about the State of the Union last night, and that's where we wanted to start the morning, Saagar, with the State of the Union speech and the Democrats' reaction to that speech in particular.
Well, Nancy Pelosi could not simply clap at the president once again, so she had to re-up herself. She needs to make sure she gets that front page hashtag resistance GIF. So we have this clip from what she did at the end of the State of the Union. There it is. And so the funniest thing about that, Krystal, you know, with that rip up and oh, look at that, it's so dramatic.
Goes in for more.
And this is what Glenn Greenwald and Aaron Mate, two friends of the show I saw tweeting about this, is like she does these little hashtag resistance things, but then whenever Juan Guaido is introduced, she actually stood up faster than Vice President Mike Pence, who is actually the holder, the chief of Venezuela policy for the White House. So what I always look at, and what you always look at, what's the most dangerous thing? It's not what one side stands up for. It's when everybody starts standing up in order to clap, having a standing ovation. Now, look, I'm not saying Maduro is a good guy, but I'm like, I don't really care. You know, if the Venezuelans want to figure it out, that's fine. I think it is kind of weird.
Juan Guaido has no legitimacy, and
I think it's pretty wild to be like, you have a rightful president of another country whenever, you know, whatever. There's a long legacy.
The point is that the bipartisan regime change consensus is alive and well in Washington. That's Congratulations, exactly everyone. That feels great.
And that's what I'm saying is like, and Aaron says this, he's like, this is exactly, you know, you try and impeach a president while you vote for their war budget. You try, and you're like, oh, I'm going to stand up, you know, against fascism that's creeping in America. And then, you know, you go and you give them unprecedented powers in order to bomb whomever they would want. No. There's just a sheer inconsistency of it. It's hashtag resistance, like yes, queen. It's like yes, queen resistance whenever there's no real substance behind it. And that's why, I think she came out looking terrible.
Well, I mean, look, you know my view. This is all theater, right? You gave the guy a blank check to bomb whoever, whatever, however he wanted to. You didn't do anything about that. You gave him a massive military budget. You let him pass a bad trade deal, like gave him a huge win on that the day after you literally vote on articles of impeachment. This is the theater of resistance. This isn't real resistance. And so that's the thing that always frustrates me so much. I saw some hand-wringing on Twitter from Democrats about like, oh, now she's playing into the violation of norms, et cetera. I don't freaking care about that. If she wants to rip the speech up, fine. Rip the speech up. The part that I have an issue with is don't pretend that you're opposing this president and his worst elements when you're not, when in fact you're handing him a blank check on some of the most dangerous pieces and supporting ultimately the worst of the bipartisan status quo in Washington.
See, that's what I always want to focus on is anytime I see everybody starts standing up and it usually has something to do with accumulated finance, then I'm like, oh, there's the real consensus. And by the way, none of this is actually happening right now. None of this is actually working right now. Gallup numbers came out yesterday. Trump's job approval is at his best, 49%. Within that, actually, it shows that it's ticked up since October. I don't really know what happened in October and September there, Krystal, but from 42% to 50%. So the entire country's been focused on impeachment. His approval rating is higher than ever. The approval rating of the Republican Party is actually up 6 points over the year. And his approval rating on the economy is at the highest level for any president since George W. Bush at the height of the 2001 post 9/11 era. So
good job, guys.
Let's say you are, hashtag resisting. Are you doing a very good job? Trump's approval rating is at the highest that it's ever been. The Republican Party is more popular than it's ever been. And what just happened in Iowa? Well, we don't know entirely, but the one data point that we have is that turnout was at not a record high like we expected,
not a record high.
Probably the 172,000 number around that we saw last time. So you weren't able to drive out more votes. The president's approval rating is very, very high. Handling of the economy is high. And that's because the prosecution of a case against Trump has been all about norms, and it's been all about culture. There are things in that speech which I cringed at, like opportunity zones and like talking about tax cuts. Instead of, I wish he'd leaned a little bit harder into child tax credits. But overall, I thought it was one of the most effective speeches of his entire presidency, and it leaned very hard in some of the populist energy that I've talked about here. And watching him up there making the case, specifically for lower drug pricing and all that, I really thought it was a very good speech on his part, and that the Democratic response, if it's just going to be to tear it up, nothing's going to happen.
Here's my thing, right? You cannot have gone into this whole process thinking that your number one priority is to get rid of Trump, and then the end of the process is that he's in a better position than ever before. I mean, it's kind of amazing. I was on CNN this morning, and even they said, looks like impeachment made him popular. Even they're having to admit the truth of what we said all along, which is that this is a disaster for Democrats. It's not what people want to focus on. It's only going to play into his hands. And so congratulations. In terms of the actual process that really could remove him from office, all you've done is set us way back. I get accused, Glenn gets accused, Matt Taibbi gets, Katie Halper, Aaron Mate, we all get accused of being like Russian assets who love Trump. No one has done more to help Donald Trump than the Democratic establishment and the establishment media that enables them. They are the people who have given him the highest approval rating that he has seen this entire term. So that's all I have to say about that.
Everybody.
Way to go, guys.
She ripped up
Great
a piece
work.
of paper.
All right, we're going to tell you what's on our radars. That is next.